never fails.
Yeah.
Live. Boom.
Looking for a new desk to put in here because I'm literally working like Will Ferrell on Elf on this kind of. I mean, y'all would be amazed what I'm working with here. Granted, I get it, Jeff. I get it.
I know you're
I
not
get it.
talking about space.
I have space. But what I have to put my computer on is just really weird. It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell you what I have literally been thriving with the past few weeks. Jeff, do you have Peacock?
Yeah, sure do.
How amazing is it? You can't sleep late at night, or you lay all those chitlins down, the wife's asleep, and you're just like, I just want to go back to 2004 real quick and watch Brock Lesnar versus Eddie Guerrero for the No Mercy pay-per-view for WWE Raw. I've been having the best time reliving my childhood. I've watched in 3 weeks like 8 pay-per-views already, including I did rewatch the WrestleMania that we all went to.
Oh yeah, did you see yourself 6 rows back?
I get to see myself in my orange shirt.
Having any screen time?
Yeah. I mean, I remember Ronda Rousey walking right by me. And I'm thinking,
you say you don't remember that?
I do remember. I remember Ronda Rousey.
I can tell you why you don't remember it.
Oh yeah, but I remember Ronda Rousey walking by me, and I'm thinking, oh my god, look at this! I said like. UFC people are even here supporting WWE. And little did I know, Dwayne was going to pull her out of the stands, basically right in front of me.
Yeah,
I could smell Dwayne.
That was tight. I marked out when NWO came out.
I've always been a huge Triple H fan. He's always got the best WrestleMania entrances.
No joke though. No joking. Like. Serious, watching that pay-per-view. Do y'all remember how awesome that ladder match was?
Oh, it was great with Seth Rollins.
Dude, yes.
Yeah, that was
Daniel Bryan won it, I believe. Yeah, but it was amazing. Seth Rollins, your boy. Oh my gosh, what was his name? You loved him. You loved
Randy Orton, wasn't it?
No, not Randy Orton.
Yeah, it was Seth Rollins versus Randy Orton because he gives him an RKO.
No. The ladder match, the Money in the Bank match.
That was it.
No, Seth Rollins and Randy Orton, they were just beefing. They weren't in that match. I promise you. That was two other matches.
Well, Seth Rollins cashed in the Money in the Bank at the end.
Yeah, he did that against Brock Lesnar. This is killing me. Hang on 1 second. We can't start.
I thought that was when Seth Rollins, whatever his little finishing move, curb stomp is, he went to do it, and Randy Orton RKO'd him.
That was a match between those two, though. That wasn't
a ladder match. Is that what you're saying?
No, he already had the Money in the Bank.
Guy we love. I love. Murph loves.
Murph loves him. Give me a second. What year was that?
Dean Ambrose.
No, when I say it, y'all go back. Oh yeah.
I don't remember who. I don't even know who he's talking about.
No, we can't start the show until I get this corrected. But it's all worth it once I see who it is. Here we go. I'm in the results. The results. Daniel Bryan defeated. I am thinking Dolph Ziggler. Sorry, Dolph
Ziggler.
Poor man, Shawn Michaels. I do love Dolph Ziggler.
It was a ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship. That's what it was. Sorry, but yeah,
it's okay.
Randy Orton defeated Seth Rollins in just a singles match, but that was a great match as well.
Yeah.
But the ladder match
off the ladder into an RKO out of nowhere. It's great.
Yeah.
It's a big time finishing move.
That is.
Randy Orton, he was like a couple years too late, I think, in his career because he could have been.
He could have been.
He still had a great career.
It's pretty close to the Stone Cold Stunner. It's just the more.
It's more out of nowhere.
Millennial Stunner. What do you say, Joe?
No, I was saying it's out of nowhere.
Yeah,
exactly what Brad said. Yeah. All right, we ready to kick this thing off?
All right. I'm done for the show. That's all I'll talk about.
Jesse, make sure you get all your, microphone banging in before he says, "All right, Sprouse, we're live."
Oh, we've been live. We've been live.
Oh, whoops.
Well, yeah, I know, but
we're good.
All right, tell me when to go, boss. Welcome in, boys and girls, to the #1 Group of 5 football podcast in the world. We are the one and only Group of 5 guys. Our goal is to be the voice for the Group of 5 football programs that the mainstream sports media will not do. We need your help to do that. We need you to follow us on all the social media platforms: X, Instagram, TikTok at Group of Five Guys. Go to groupof5guys.com, get you some Group of Five Guys swag. Go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Like, subscribe, share. Most importantly, tell your family and your friends about us. On this show, we got Mountain West Conference preview, arguably the best conference in the Group of Five. I'm sure somebody will have a comment like that at some point in this show. If you missed last week, we had our Conference USA preview, and then we had our MAC preview. So those two are live. And then we had an interview with UAB DB's coach, Kenneth Gilstrap. That's live over the last few weeks. You can catch all those wherever you get your podcast. Enjoy the show. Have you had it from somebody born and raised in Lafayette, Louisiana, at a tailgate? Doubt it.
Lee Corso is a guy who had a retirement party 10 years ago, and yet he still won't leave the office.
Projected getting drafted between the first and third round. Like, that's incredible.
That's impressive.
Yeah, the wide receivers are absolutely stacked for the Group of Five.
I said Michael Pratt has got to show up and play, and boy did he. 394 yards, 4 touchdowns, 48 rushing yards on the ground, and another touchdown.
Yeah, I really appreciate you do for the Group of Five programs, and I think it's great. I think we should get more of this. But you guys are in the forefront of this, and
so I'm thankful for this. I'm glad that you're talking about the Group of Five because I think they get overlooked.
But it's a ton of fun to watch a guy go to the NFL from a Nevada or a Colorado State or a Middle Tennessee or an App State, and fans follow that kid.
I appreciate what you guys do, truthfully. Covering the Group of Five. I mean, y'all said it earlier, but the Sun Belt to me is college football.
Guys, Tip sent us a reel or a TikTok over the weekend about the transfer portal. And I mean, we got camp has started just about everywhere in the country. And we got almost 7,000 players active in the transfer portal right now. Tip, you got the stats on that?
I do, yeah. So I want to give a shout out to the McCready and Siskey podcast. I hope I'm saying that correctly. This is where I saw this these numbers, this data, and this information at. But a quick little thing on the transfer portal. So I think there's 2 windows each year. So it looks like for 2023, the first transfer portal window opened up on December 5th of 2022, and then it closed on January 18th of this year. And then there is a second window that's in the spring. It was April 15th through the 30th. So during these windows, the players, that's when they have their opportunity and their chance to enter their name into the transfer portal. That doesn't mean they have to transfer within that window. They just have to put their name into the transfer portal if they're wanting to transfer, and then they can transfer schools whenever they want to. But with that being said, in this last spring transfer portal window, there were 1,708 new players that entered their name into the portal. And so now the active number of football players in the portal currently is 6,374.
I listened to that. That was such a great analogy that guy had about musical chairs.
Right.
He's like, it's like you're playing musical chairs with 10 chairs and 500 people or whatever he said. And all these guys, I mean, we say it all the time. Who is in their ears telling them to enter the portal like this all the time? I mean, it's hurting those guys. It's hurting the high school kids. It's hurting the JUCO kids.
I don't think it's going to hurt high school kids at all. I think the high school kids are going to be the ones taking their spots. Because, I mean, these aren't just some average Joes out here that are getting these scholarships. Look, if you're trying to transfer, there's probably 2 or 3 reasons why. 1, you're not happy. 2, you're looking to upgrade. Or 3, you probably just think that good. And so now they're going to look to see if there's another player out here in high school or JUCO that's going to take your spot. It's going to be freaking Booby Miles here bagging groceries saying, I wish I would have never left Boise State. I mean, you're gambling with your college education here. You're gambling
Yeah.
with your future. You're gambling with your life. I, for one, I'm not a huge risk taker. I'm never going to be that big booming thing. I know Jeff. He'll throw some dollars out there. He's a gambler. I like consistency, and there's no way I'm going to gamble my education because I think that woulda, shoulda, coulda. Stupid. It's dumb.
Yeah, well, they're just getting bad advice, and I don't know who they're getting it from, but I guarantee you that these numbers are not being, actively passed around the transfer portal community. I mean, if you just take a look at those numbers, that's a bad bet. That is a bad roll. Now, you obviously have to be realistic, like with not only your talent, your experience level goes with it. Like there's a lot of factors to weigh out when you're making that decision to go into the portal. But I say it all the time. Do you want to be a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a big pond? Personally, for myself, like I'm going to be the big fish in a small pond and get all the film that I possibly can, get all the reps that I possibly can, because the ultimate goal for these kids is to go to the NFL. That's where you're going to make your most money. Now, you go at a place where you're getting 70 snaps a game and all the attempts at catching the ball or rushing the ball or whatever it is that you could possibly want. Instead, I'm going to go to a Power 5 program where they really don't even throw the ball, and I'm going to get, maybe 20 snaps a game. Like, it just doesn't make sense, and they're being sold this false bill. That doesn't mean that kids don't go somewhere, on occasion and have great success and crush it at the next level or at another school. It's just got to be for the right reasons. And I just think that a lot of the vast majority of the kids are getting bad information, and they don't have somebody in their corner that's guiding them through the process.
And I wouldn't be surprised if it has to do with some players who's not even getting bad information. They're just seeing their buddy player X over here get that scholarship, get that money. And he's thinking, oh, I'm better than he is. Heck, I can get more yards than he can next year. I'm going to the transfer portal. Whoops. Yep. I would not be surprised if that's not 15, 20% of those guys out there that's just hanging.
Yeah. And when you can't find a school to go to and you try and go back to your old school, well, sorry, you've already told them you're transferring.
I would love to be that coach.
You've already told them you're transferring. They have filled your roster spot. They have filled your spot, your scholarship, everything. So it's unfortunate.
You know what it is, and we kind of make fun of these guys when we talk amongst ourselves and stuff, but there's countless guys in every locker room that are just banking on going to the league. And the realist, like I think all of us are sitting there thinking like, bro, you're not getting snaps here. You ain't going to the league. And they keep going to pro day. They keep trying to come back. They keep talking about it. And now it's just even worse because now they're thinking that, and they think, well, it's because the coach hates me. It's because coach doesn't like me. And then they're going to go to the next place and this coach doesn't like me. And then at some point you got to look in the mirror and realize, like Jesse said, like maybe you're just not quite that good. But I do want to say one more thing on that. So NIU's head coach, Thomas Hammock, tweeted this yesterday because everybody's starting to recruit the class of 2025, by the way. Good Lord. So he said this: tomorrow, a bunch of college coaches will start hyping up the 2025 class. In the fall, teams will look to the portal to fill particular needs. Recruiting is no longer on your time frame. Find a place you can call home and keep relationships at the forefront of your thought process. And that, amen to that, because I wouldn't sacrifice, more playing time or whatever to transfer. I wouldn't sacrifice the relationships that I have with you guys for 1 year of hoping I might play more or something like that. I just, that's perfect. Think of a place after football. Think of the friends you're going to have. Think of the job you want after ball, all of that stuff. But anyway, that's all I got on that. I like your analogy, Jeff, about the small pond, but I think some of these kids are jumping out of the pond thinking they're going to get to a bigger lake and they're getting stuck on land. And then nothing's happened. And then, what happens? They just start working. Like I said last week, you start working for Enterprise Rent-A-Car.
Yeah, you're just in like purgatory. Like where
Rouse.
What?
Yes.
I was gonna say you got a bunch of Nemos that think they're Bruce the shark, and they ain't. They ain't. Sorry. Go back to your fish tank.
Yeah, it's bad news. Well, anyway, we got Mountain West preview for you guys tonight. I know we have at least one voicemail. You guys keep calling that hotline 615-900-4286. We want your hottest takes. Next week we got the American preview. The week after that we got Sunbelt. And then we really, really need you to call once we start playing football, which is about 3 weeks from this coming Saturday. So get up for it. Jeff, what do you got?
Yeah, let's get to our lone caller tonight. First time caller, Colorado State fan. So excited to get a Ram fan in here, giving his take on the upcoming season.
Hey, good morning, Group of Five guys. This is Corey calling from Milliken, Colorado. Attempted to leave y'all a voicemail last night, but got interrupted during my intro, so wanted to try to give a call back this morning. Yeah, I know that y'all were doing the preview on the Mountain West Conference this evening, so wanted to provide just my thoughts on my CSU Rams. I'm a Colorado State alumni and season ticket holder. So first and foremost, before I dive into the team, just wanted to, again, thank you guys for all the work that you do for the Group of Five. Love listening to your podcast and content. And you all are really the voice of those R5 conferences. So appreciate all you do. Just wanted to dive into the team. First and foremost with Coach Norvell, I think he's doing a great job. Got us trending in the right direction, has really connected well with the community, and created a lot of excitement in Fort Collins at this time. He's done a great job keeping the staff together this off season. A lot of his guys were really sought after by the Power Five this off season. Guys like his D-line coach, Buda Williams, was heavily sought after, as well as our D coordinator Freddie Banks, and by the Pac-12 and Big Ten is what was rumored. So I think he's done a nice job of keeping that staff in house, and I think that continuity in the coaching staff will really pay off for the Rams this fall. Looking at recruiting since Coach Norvell has gotten into town, really done a nice job. His first 3 cycles, as far as his class rankings, have ranked up towards the top of the Mountain West. If we look at the top end talent in those classes, he's had an ESPN 300 commit in each of those first 3 classes. So I do think that as they develop, we'll really start to see that talent show up on the field. The offense this year, looking forward to it being much improved. We've definitely got 2 of the top 5 wide receivers in the conference, in Torrey Horton and Justice Ross Simmons. Torrey Horton is a kid everybody kind of knows at this point. He's really made a name for himself, but there's not much more that can be said about him other than he's just an absolute stud. He was just named to the Maxwell award watch list yesterday. Will be a Valentikov Award candidate this year, and is set to have a monster season. So, but Justice Ross Simmons is likely going to be that second guy for us. He's a younger kid. He's a sophomore, but made some really big plays last year, against Washington State and Boise.
Appreciate it, Corey. And he got cut off. There is a 3-minute limit on that voicemail, so if you can try and get it under that 3 minute. But I mean, I'm with him. I think Colorado State has got something very good brewing. I know we'll get to him a little bit later. Offense is going to be much improved, and I think that defense has some really, really good talent on the D line and in the back end as well. That's going to help the Rams get to where I think they want to be and start competing for the Mountain West title.
You think everybody thought, because they brought a bunch of transfers from Nevada, and I think everybody thought there would be some more immediate success there just by all the transfers that they got with the same staff, and it just didn't really pan out last year. So we'll see. A lot of optimism in Fort Collins.
Yeah, but keep them coming, guys. Appreciate the call, Corey. Call us back and give us more updates on Colorado State. More of you guys is better, less of us. So keep them coming. 615-900-4286. And Give us your hottest take. Call us out, whatever it may be.
And we got a good chance, not to spoil any travel lists or anything like that, but I think we got a good chance to see Colorado State in Murfreesboro, just because that is the weekend of the alumni golf tournament, which, if you know anything about us, we ain't missing a golf tournament, boys.
No doubt.
So we will more than likely be in Murfreesboro that weekend for that game. I think it's week 4 or 5, something like that. But so we got a good chance to see those guys. And Middle beat them pretty good last year in Colorado. So,
yeah,
you know,
and our good friend Matt Mummy.
Ain't no doubt. I was just thinking about that while I was listening to that call. Do y'all think that the Dion at Colorado is having any effect in a positive or negative light? I almost, if I can, just kind of what I was thinking was, I feel like Dion is recruiting a little more nationally now, right, than probably Colorado ever has. Dion is going to go to Dallas, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, South Florida, Birmingham, Alabama. He's going to go to all the places in the South that he knows and try to get guys to go out to Colorado. Now, I almost think it helps somebody like Colorado State because they're probably not battling over the same recruits anymore, and it's not like the guys that Dion is going to get to go to Colorado now are guys that Colorado State probably would have had in the past. You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Am I making any sense to anybody?
Yeah,
so I think it might help them, and then I think it's going to bring publicity because Dion's bringing media, and if Colorado State goes and kicks their ass again, that's where I think the biggest chance is.
Well, that's what I was going to say is if Colorado ends up not being what, a lot of the pundits and analysts say that they're going to be, that's going to look really bad on them, especially if Colorado State is recruiting, that some of that local talent in that area, and Dion's going out all over the country trying to get all these guys, and it doesn't work out. So it's going to be a lot to mesh for Dion at Colorado, but I like what the Rams are doing. I like what Norvell's doing. He's been a winner pretty much everywhere he's been, and it does take a couple of years to build that culture, but I got faith in the coaching staff, and they got one of the top offensive coordinators in the country for sure. So I'm not too worried about Colorado State. They're on the rise.
Yeah, I like it. Well, let's get into this Mountain West preview. So last year, Fresno State wins it, obviously, with an all-time performance on the offensive side of the ball. Jake Haener. Now he's down in New Orleans with the Saints. They lost a bunch, so we'll see what they can do. But they beat Boise State. And honestly, I think Fresno State, with Haener, if he didn't get hurt, there's no telling what they would have ended up doing that season. So it sucks, but that's the way it goes. We know that's football. New championship format in 2023. You're going to have the top 2 teams based on conference winning percentage playing for the championship. You're not going to have the Mountain Division and the West Division like you had last year. So it is the conference's attempt, I guess, preparing for the playoff expansion. It's their attempt to have the best 2 teams in the conference championship. So I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Got a hot take on that. But let's get right into it. Like, I keep switching the order on you guys, and I apologize for that. I know we're getting a little bit. I'm going to try to go to Jeff first tonight, if that's okay with everybody. So Jeff Murphy, biggest question mark, biggest storyline going into the 2023 Mountain West football season.
Yeah, I think the biggest question mark, and you briefly mentioned it, is the defending champions, Fresno State Bulldogs. How are they going to replace that much offensive firepower? I mean, you lose your starting quarterback who's been there for a few years, top of the conference in Jake Haener, Jordan Mims, who's a very underrated running back in that pass-happy offense. I think he was a huge key. You lose Moreno Cropper, you lose Pope, you lose your pretty much top 3 receivers on offense. How are they going to replace that? And I think the key is you pretty much can't. I mean, when you have that many top guys on your offense that go, it'd be a mistake to try and replace all of them, right? I think you try and take the guys that you have. They're getting a couple guys in the portal, and you don't try and do exactly the same thing because you got different guys. You got to play to their strengths. But I say the number one question in replacing those guys is who's going to be the quarterback. So Logan Fife last year in his time when Haener was hurt. He had 892 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and 3 rushing touchdowns on the ground. So not great production. His touchdown to turnover ratio was not good at all. But then you get transfer from UCF, Mikey Keene coming in. And he had a handful of games last year. He was 72% completion percentage, 647 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 1 interception. And then actually in 2021, he had an even better season when the starter Dylan Gabriel got hurt. So you got him coming in he's not a big guy, but he's small, he can run. But the biggest thing is they have Jeff Tedford, who's been a quarterback guru everywhere he's been. It was no different last year with Haener. That's the reason why he stayed. So I got a lot of faith in Tedford training up both of the whole quarterback room entirety, but I think it's going to be Mikey Keene to start. That's just kind of my gut. I think he's more complete. He's shown in the past that he's been able to do it. And then Eric Brooks is going to be your top receiver coming back. He only had 37 catches last year, 391 yards, 3 touchdowns. But you got 2 transfer receivers coming in. Jalen Gill out of Boston College, who had some decent numbers last year, and then Mikael Barkley out of Toledo coming in. So you got some pieces coming in the portal. Hopefully they pan out. I think they're going to get more of an opportunity in this offense than they've ever had at their both previous stops, just because of the nature of the offense. And then you have Malik Sherrod, who is the backup running back. He's got some big shoes to fill. We'll see if he can do it. But I think a lot of people are kind of down on Fresno State, as you would think they should be. But I got high hopes because their defense is going to be much improved from last year as well. So I think they're not going to be as good as they were a year ago, but look out for them to compete in the Mountain West for sure.
Jeff, can I just compliment you on your professionalism right there?
Yeah.
Because Swag Bear just leans into the mic and
That's not what happened. That's not what happened.
I was wondering what that was.
Jeff Murphy, that was fantastic because you didn't even miss a beat. So what happened here, as you were giving that awesome analysis, I realized that my sound went out on my headphones here, and I realized that my fat thigh pulled one of the strings down. So as I was adjusting it, I also unmuted my camera where a tickle my throat came, and I coughed very loud, which I then realized I was still unmuted, and I saw Matt Sprouse kill me with his eyes. But yeah, you did a fantastic job of keeping it going. And I'm sorry for the listener out there who's got a big old cough in his left eardrum. So sorry about that.
It's all good.
Yeah. Anyway, Jeff, great points. I mean, that's just so much to replace.
So much.
I can't even remember I don't remember who we talked about last year that it was similar to that. Just replacing so much offensively. 3,000-yard quarterback, 1,000-yard back, 1,000-yard receiver, all of them gone. No, that's very true.
And they did.
That's very true. Yeah, they did, and now those guys are back. But yeah, that's it. I mean, that's a big question mark because in my opinion, they're not the favorite. I'm one of those people that's thinking there's going to be quite a bit of a drop off on Fresno State. Swagbear, is the tickle out of your throat?
Probably not.
Are you ready to give us your biggest question mark for 2023?
Had pizza, having heartburn, all kind of issues going on inside of me. So apologize. Storyline for Mountain West. When I think of Mountain West right now, it's all this summer talk or the spring talk with San Diego State, throwing a little note out there wanting to leave the conference to go into the Pac-12. Me personally, if I am a prideful Mountain West fan, I play for the Mountain West, I work in the Mountain West, I think Mountain West is better than Pac-12, right? I don't want San Diego State to even have that opportunity anymore. You're trying to leave me. You're trying to leave my family. Because in the grand scheme of things, conferences, even though you have rivalries, you are a little family because in bowl season, our conference is better than your conference. I think San Diego State is going to be put to the test this year because schools who think that, San Diego State thinks they're better than us, they're going to try to leave and think they're going to go to a bigger, better conference. There's going to be a target in San Diego State. So my question is, how is the Mountain West going to respond to San Diego State? Is San Diego State going to rise to the challenge? Are they going to be able to show, hey, we do need to get out of this conference. We think we're better than you. We're going to prove that we are. Or are the Air Forces, Boise States, Fresno States, are they going to put San Diego State in their place? Because in my opinion, if San Diego State goes and gets a bunch of L's, then the Pac-12 might be like, maybe we should look at Boise State over here. Maybe we should look at
Yeah.
these other schools. Now, hopefully the other schools don't go to the Pac-12, but you get what I'm putting down here. I think that all this talk of San Diego State may come to bite them in the ass because these other schools are going to want a shot at them.
I agree with you. I think they got a target on their back. And what I hope does happen is the fans of these other schools treat San Diego State with a little more disrespect than they normally would. And I'm not saying throw stuff. I'm not saying throw out any slurs or anything like that. But I hope that they're loud. I hope the boo birds are out. And I hope, because you're right, the Boise State fans think that they should have gotten a Power 5 invite before UCF, before Cincinnati. They've been doing this for 20 years now, waiting on their chance. Now, their other sports are probably part of the issue for Boise, but yeah, I agree. I mean, San Diego State for me, I think the same old San Diego State. I think really good on defense. I think can't score. I mean, it's been their MO for quite a while now, but I'm sure we'll get a little bit more into that. Tip, biggest question mark, Mountain West Conference 2023.
So my biggest question mark is, can quarterback Taylon Green and the Boise State offense continue the success that they had from last season? So Taylon Green, he took over as the starting quarterback from Jesse's guy, Hank Bachmeyer, after the loss to UTEP in week 4. At that point in the season, Boise State was 2-2. So Taylon Green takes over. He's the starting quarterback in week 5 against San Diego State. And he then helps the Broncos go 8-2 in those final 10 games of the season and finishes the season with a win against North Texas in the Frisco Bowl. During those 10 weeks, those last 10 games, the offense averaged 32.5 points per game, and they averaged close to 200 rushing yards each game. And coming back this season, their top 4 receiving targets are back. Looking at their schedule, though, they have a very tough schedule, especially out of conference. They're at Washington week 1. They have UCF at home week 2. They go to Memphis week 5, and then they have to play at Fresno State in week 10. So tough schedule. Can this offense continue the success from last season? I think the answer is yes, but you have 10 games now where there's film on those 10 games, and you know that those coaches in the Mountain West and those players have been watching this film. Maybe they can slow them down a little bit and beat Boise State in some close games. But I think Boise State has so much talent coming back on the offense side of the ball. I think they're just going to continue to have great success this season like they did last season.
I have a hot take. You brought it up, Tipton. Their schedule, in my opinion, is the ideal group of 5 schedule if you're trying to make a potential playoff run. Let me tell you why. We talked about it when we talked about Western Kentucky in the Conference USA preview. They're playing at Washington, who's probably going to be a top 20, top 15 preseason team going into the year, but it ain't Ohio State. It ain't Alabama. It ain't Georgia. Boise State, talent-wise, can probably match up quite well at Washington. Then they get UCF, who's now another Power 5 team, who's right on par with Boise State as far as talent history. I mean, they played a couple years ago in that awesome game, and the weather delayed for like 4 hours. Then they go at Memphis. It's a group of 5 school, but it's a relatively large, big brand, blue blood, in my opinion, group of 5 school. And so and here's the deal too, their FCS opponent is North Dakota, who ain't a doormat. So you look at that schedule, and it is a big if, but if they find a way to run the table on that, everything else works out in their favor. You have in the SEC, let's say, you have Georgia just runs away with it, and then everybody else has 2 or 3 losses, which is very possible. The Pac-12, I mean, we know Oregon might go undefeated and then lose by 30 points in the championship game. Same with Utah. They'll roll over like they do. Yeah, same with USC. The quarterback will paint his nails in the championship game, and then they'll lose by 30 points. So if those things work out, I'm telling you, Boise State, but it all, like you said, Tip, it all comes down to Taylon Green. Can he take the next step and be what the Boise State fans think that he is?
Well, here's
But
some breaking news this week out of Boise. Coach Avalo stated their top returning receiver, Latrell Caples, is out for the season with a leg injury. So
no,
they're going to
disregard everything I just said.
No, I think they have a guy that was, I think he was fourth on their team last year in receptions, but I think this kid is going to be the breakout player at receiver, especially even more now. It was before, but especially more now that Caples is out. Eric McAllister is 6'4", 195 pounds. He only had 11 catches last year, right? 259 yards, 4 touchdowns. So 4 out of the 11 he caught were to the house. That's an average of 23.5 yards per catch. Do I think he's going to have that this year? Not quite that high, but this guy, he's a big playmaker. He's a guy that's going to go up top, and being at 6'4", he can make those contested catches. So I'm excited to see him, but that is a big blow to that receiving core when your top returning guy is out for the year.
Yeah, well, a big blow to my hot take too, Jeff.
Sorry,
Yeah.
it's breaking news.
Yesterday
You got to
when
let
were
it out.
asking, yesterday when you were asking for our takes and stuff, that would have been one where you'd be like, "Hey, Sprouse, I know you're going to go with Boise State here on a hot take, but this guy's out." I mean,
No, I still think Sprouse. I'm
no,
with you.
no,
I
do
still think
too.
they
I still
can.
think they're
I think they're the most complete team
100%.
in the Mountain West, and like you said, I agree with you on their schedule. They can make that run, and they could be have a shot at the playoff.
Yeah. Well, that brings. Go ahead, Swag, because I'm gonna.
It's nothing important. I'll say that the Memphis game is very interesting to me. I don't know what it is. I feel like Boise State's gonna get an L against Memphis. Go to the Liberty Bowl, have a sold out crowd. It's gonna be electric there at Liberty. At Liberty Bowl.
Might pull out a pencil, but
Hey,
strong
good
chance
barbecue.
of some attendance there in Memphis, Tennessee from
Tigers.
a couple people here. Yeah. That brings me to my biggest question mark. So they changed the conference championship format. So now you're going to have the top 2 records in the conference. Will it help or will it hurt? And I'm sitting here looking at Boise State's schedule, and I'm sitting here looking at the final week of the season. They play Air Force at home. I'm going to sit here and tell you that there's a very strong chance they got to play Air Force at home 7 days after that. And now you might say, well, yeah, great. An extra week to prep for the triple option. Yeah, sure. Fine. They're in the conference. They're kind of ready for it anyways. But you get beat up in those kind of games. And we say it every single week on this podcast. The hardest thing to do is to beat a good team twice, let alone 2 weeks in a row. So that's where last year, they wouldn't have had to do that. They would have had to play somebody out of the other division. But this year, the way that the schedule works out, in my opinion, the top 2 teams in the conference happen to play on the final week of the season. Good luck, Boise State, 2 weeks in a row. But anyway, you guys got any thoughts on that new format? I mean, I think in the long term, it's a good move because you don't want to have, let's say an undefeated Boise State playing a, 5-3 in the conference team and have a chance to get upset. That's what they're trying to avoid, is the 5-3 team upsetting them.
For
and then
all
getting
we
left
know,
out of the playoff.
every conference may go down this route.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised because I'm too stupid to. I was looking at it and I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And then I call you and you explain it to me. I said, okay, so you have a heavily weighted, side of the conference, then that does make sense. And I think about that for Group of 5 and Power 5. I would not be surprised if this would be a model going forward for a lot of conferences.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, the Big 12 used to do it, and I think they went the other way to try to get into the playoff, I think.
Isn't the SEC doing that this year? All right, isn't like there's no division this year?
I don't know.
Pretty sure.
I thought that was once they get all their new teams. I don't know.
Maybe.
I think they're still the same this year. Maybe not.
Wouldn't know.
But anyway, so let's get into the next topic, players to watch. Jeff Murphy, start with you. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm expecting a big year out of this kid. and he's actually out of Colorado State. Clay Millen. He had a tough time last year, and that O-line has got to get better. They got some guys in the transfer portal coming in, but even so, as a freshman stepping into the fire like that, he almost had 2,000 yards. Most impressively, he was at 72% completion percentage. In Matt Mummy's offense, that's what you got to have. You got to be able to complete the ball at a high rate. 10 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. A handful of those interceptions are to you're just getting frustrated. You're forcing the ball probably, in spots where you shouldn't. But then a lot of that too is just growing pains, being a freshman, kind of getting lit up every single game. That starts to wear on you. But I thought he did a great job last year, showed some really bright spots. And then with Torrey Horton coming back, who's his top guy, I think one of the top receivers, honestly, in the country, at either, whether it's Group of 5 or Power 5. Justice Simmons is coming back, his next guy. And then I just think Norvell is going to continue to develop the defense, because what happened last year with them is at times the defense would play well, and then the offense would kind of disappear, and then it'd be vice versa where offense might get some momentum, but the defense can't stop anybody. So I think they're going to be better on both sides of the ball. I got faith in Matt Mummy, continuing to teach Clay Millen. He's going to be better. He's got a great arm. He's a big guy. He's not super mobile, but with those two receivers coming back, I think they're going to be really good. And look out for Clay Millen. He's a name to watch.
I like it. Swaggy, who you got?
Hey, Matt. Outstanding players, I believe. I enjoyed watching UNLV last year. They were really fun and explosive on offense. They did lose the running back, but they're bringing in Vincent Davis from Pitt. Guy has 1,800 yards, 16 touchdowns. I think he's going to be a good spark for that UNLV offense. Hopefully get some more wins on their schedule. So excited to see Vincent Davis. Other than that, ever since we did that analysis earlier this year, talking about where the best offensive line going pro has been from, Boise State, they lost 2 starters from last year, bringing back 3. Tipton was talking about how they average 200 yards of rushing offense. It's because of the big boys up front. The better the offensive line is for Boise State, the better their team's going to be, and hopefully make that run, as you were talking about earlier in the show.
And yeah, they got. If you don't mind, I'll go to my player to watch because it's in Boise. Ashton Genty. Now, the reason I say this guy, George Halani's their number 1 back from a year ago. Guy rushed for well over 1,000 yards, and we made the mistake of putting him as a top running back to watch for 2023. And you would have thought we told the Boise State fans that they were going to suck this year because they were saying, how can you have this graphic and not put Ashton Genty on it? I mean, so I'm just excited to see how much better this guy's going to be from a year ago because he wasn't the number 1 guy. George Halani's back. So, what did we miss? And hopefully Ashton Genty is going to be a gigantic part of the offense. But I'm excited to see, same thing we talked about Taylon Green. I'm just excited to see, is this guy as good as the Boise State fans think that he is? And I mean, like Jesse said, if the O-line is good, I think he will be. But that's what I got on that tip. Player to watch, Mountain West Conference 2023.
So one of my players to watch is someone that Corey mentioned in his phone call earlier, Colorado State wide receiver Torrey Horton. I'm telling you this just to watch this guy play football. He is fun to watch. He had a fantastic breakout season last year, 71 receptions, 1,131 receiving yards, and 8 touchdowns. His quarterback, Clay Millen, is back, like Murph mentioned earlier. So just watch this guy Torrey Horton play football. He's an incredible player, and I expect him to have better numbers this year than he did last year. Another one of my players to watch, Air Force running back John Lee Eldridge III. This guy was Brad Roberts' backup running back last season. Last year, he had 99 carries for 766 yards and 4 touchdowns. So Brad Roberts, he's graduated. Brad Roberts last season had 345 rushing attempts. He also had 1,728 yards and 17 touchdowns. So with Robert gone, I think John Lee Eldridge should get 300 plus rushes. I'm looking at him probably to get 1,500 plus rushing yards and 10 plus touchdowns this season. And what we all know is obviously a very run heavy offense. My last player to watch on the defensive side of the ball, Wyoming linebacker Easton Gibbs. This guy last year had 121 total tackles and 3 sacks. So I expect him and all 3 of these guys to have great seasons this year.
I know you guys make fun of me for always talking about Air Force. I'm going to limit it on this episode, but with Eldridge too now. So Hazik Daniels graduated as well, and then he got declined a graduate transfer. So I think he's back as a GA at Air Force. But the new quarterback is not as athletic as Hazik Daniels, so I don't think you're going to see as many called quarterback runs. See, I know it's a triple option, but a lot of times they're running the play that's called, and they just run the option, motions or whatever you want to call. So I think you're going to see less quarterback runs, so even more heavy on giving it to the running back, and that's Eldridge. So yeah, I think he's going to have a monster year. Their O-line is ridiculous. Air Force, man, last year they just slipped up like in 2 bad losses last year. I mean, they still ended up with a 10-win season, but they just had some bad losses. I think Utah State and Wyoming, wasn't it? And that blew their chance at a conference championship.
That was a nice inside information scoop there, Matt. I
What's
didn't
that?
realize that. I always thought that it was kind of a read option deal. Quarterback just
Sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I know sometimes, but I mean, I didn't think that the quarterback was running it based off of play as much as you just said it would be.
I run 6 plays, split veer. Give it time, always works. That's about what it is. I mean, that's what I don't want to speak for what they're doing now. I think it's the same offensive coordinator that was there.
It was 16 years ago.
We would have, yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, we'd have a play. It'd be just fullback. It would be a fullback dive, something 32.
You're gonna give it to him one way or the other. Don't pull it.
Yeah, they were giving it. Now maybe that was because when I was there, I was prep school and then a freshman playing like a freshman schedule. So maybe that was just because they're young guys. So I guess I don't know, but I'm fairly certain those plays are called. But look out for that play action. They're going to run 3 times a game, but it's always wide ass open.
Always wide open. The old line's like, hell yeah, I'm going back to that sideline.
Yeah,
get in my seat.
4-point stance. Yeah. So those are the players to watch. A lot of good ones in the Mountain West. What about coaches? Jeff, I'll start with you. Any coach that's on the hot seat or any coach that you think could be on the way out with a good season?
I'm going to go coach. I think they could be on the hot seat. It's so tough down there at New Mexico, but Danny Gonzalez, it's his 4th season. In his last 4 seasons, I'll have the COVID year in here, but 2-10, 2-5, 3-9, and then 2-10 last year. It's just, they just get crushed if they get any talent, those guys are pretty much there 1 year and then they're going somewhere else, especially with the transfer portal. It's just, I don't know how much leeway that administration has. I think he's done a pretty good job. I think they're going to be better this year. But just again, it's just hard to keep talent down there. And then in the Mountain West, you just got so many, so much high powered offense in this conference. They've just had a tough time putting points on the board, and then their defense has struggled stopping people. So I think if they have another 2-10, 3-9 type season, I think his seat starts to get pretty warm.
To Murph's point there, they are doing everything they can to improve this offense. So New Mexico's offense last season was last in the nation in total offense and second to last in scoring. But they're bringing in some transfers. Remember the name Dylan Hopkins from UAB? Yeah. Yep. He's transferring over there, as well as his offensive coordinator and interim head coach from UAB, Bryant Vincent. He's the new offensive coordinator in New Mexico. They're bringing in a few wide receiver and running back transfers. So they're doing everything they can down there to get this offense scoring more points.
If they need more tips, there's like 1,100 more guys out there.
They're out there.
That's a great point, Jesse.
How demoralizing. Like if I was sitting in the portal right now looking at these rosters, I'd be like, man, I am just either somebody's saying bad stuff about me, but here, never mind. Half of them probably don't have any film.
That's the problem.
The guys that said that just jumped out. They had a bad spring practice. I hate this team, and now they're sitting at home.
And they have no film at
No film.
all. It's one
None.
thing if you're getting a guy that's got Division I snaps under his belt, but it's another
no
thing
doubt.
if you got a guy. Anyway, is New Mexico the most difficult? You think that's the hardest school?
It's got to be, right?
Got to be one of them.
It's
Them
gotta
in
be one of
Hawaii.
them.
I think Hawaii's tough too.
Yeah.
I always thought UMass too, but
I think
UMass.
New Mexico's harder than Hawaii because at least in Hawaii, like you get a kid to take a trip out there. How do you not want to stay out there? New Mexico.
yeah. But my thing with Hawaii is, Jeff, is like I think as beautiful as that is, because I actually know somebody. You probably do too, but I know somebody from Hoover High School who went out to Hawaii. He was there for 2 or 3 years. But every time I saw him in the summertime, he was like, "Oh, it's brutal, man." He's like all the traveling, the away games. He says if we do have back-to-back away games, we end up just staying over in the mainland for time at time. He says when he goes back to Hawaii, he says there's no air conditioning. Granted, this was a long time ago. He's like, it's all just wind. Just look at me like, you're kidding me. I know. But plus, you had to play in that crappy Warrior Stadium Aloha Stadium that no one ever filled up. Granted, that's been fixed. But it used to be.
now
It
they're
had to be
playing in a
hell.
9,000
Besides
seat.
2007, whenever they went to a bowl game and got demolished by Georgia. But besides that, Hawaii, I feel like it has to be a hard place to recruit. It's fun for 2 weeks, I'm sure. It's like any vacation. I'm ready to go home after 2 weeks.
And here's the deal too. Like I don't think the college football players going out there and being like, "Wow, this is a beautiful waterfall hike that we went on." Like I think like here we are now. We got families, and we're like, "Look at these beautiful mountains, these waterfalls." Like, you didn't care about that when you were a kid. What's the nightlife?
What's the supply chain?
I don't
like
know.
over there? Am I gonna be able to get milk every time? Or want milk or what?
A good friend of mine, Jeff Soskin, he was a pitcher, got a scholarship out there, and he enjoyed every freaking moment of it. He loved
There
it.
you go.
Had a great time.
Well, pitchers, they only got to play like once every other week.
That's true. That's true. But
Anyway.
hey,
Baseball players are
Timmy
always
Chang I have faith
Yeah.
in Timmy Chang. He's going to get that program turned around. Give him a couple years.
I think so too.
He'll get some guys. He'll get some
I like
guys
that.
out there. Get some
Well-
talent and get that air raid offense rolling again.
You got to get the locals. I mean, because you could go get a mean offensive line.
Oh, yeah.
right there at home, and
I've
be
always
pretty
had
good.
I've always had a little salty spot against Hawaii ever since that
Yep, I didn't wanna bring
Hawaii
it up.
Bowl. Whenever that guy apparently I was friends with him on Facebook. He played at Hawaii and he just started just coming at me, bro, on Facebook, just talking about how the Blue Raiders should never even be a Division I school. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah,
blow up, brother. Yeah.
That guy came out of nowhere and just like wrote on Jesse's wall. I think, like
I think he's friends with a guy that like I said, that went to Hoover, so he knew that through me.
Yeah, he said something like, "It's too bad, Middle's not ready to play with the big boys." And
You've only
we
been Division I for a few years or something like that. What?
we all came out and we're like, "Who the f- is this guy?"
That's exactly what it was like.
And yeah, so hell, well, look where we're at now. Same conversation, I guess. But anyway, I don't know where we were. Swag, coach on the hot seat, coach on the way out.
I don't
what do you
have
think?
hot seat. I really don't have a guy right now on the hot seat. Best coach. I think the best coach right now in the Mountain West. I like Troy Calhoun. He's the most consistent coach. Obvious guy about to try to get to the Power 5 or will leave at any notice. I think Brady Hoke.
You think he will?
Yeah, I think he will.
Done it before.
Yeah.
Tip, what about you?
I don't think this coach is on the hot seat, but I think it could get pretty warm, depending on how they do this season. Utah State head coach Blake Anderson, his first year with Utah State, they go 11-3. They're Mountain West Conference champions and LA Bowl champions against Oregon State. That was in 2021. Last year, they go 6-7 and lost in the First Responders Bowl. So if Utah State finishes at 500 or below this season, I don't think he's on the hot seat necessarily, but I think his seat could get a little warm.
I'm right there with you on that. And mainly too, it's because, to me, it's weird. He seems like a Southern, a Southeast kind of guy. you have coaches that seem like they belong in the South, and then just go way out there. I mean, I know he had a bunch of families, I know with his wife, and he's had some stuff, so that's probably played into getting away. Also, though, fun fact on Utah State, you guys know Joe Cawthon's their D coordinator now.
I did
That
not
was
know that.
that was the D line coach at Middle. So here's they're going to be playing aggressive on defense this year with him there, and he's been all over. I think he was at Houston for a while. He was at Stephen F. Austin last year. But shout out to him. That's that coaching network again. You end up, the Arkansas State days, and now they're up there at Utah State. But yeah, I'm with you on that tip. I think they can't with as much support as they get from their community and their crowd. They're going to be real vocal if they're not successful. And unfortunately, they got a quick taste of success, and now they want it bad, and they want it right now. So, biggest game, you guys know what I've got on that. I've got Air Force at Boise State, November 24th. It is a Friday, I think. I think that's the biggest game, and then I think no matter what happens, they're going to play again the next week. Murph, what do you got?
October 7th, coming off a bye week, San Jose State plays at Boise State, and this is after Boise State has to go to Memphis, which I think is going to be a tough game. So you get San Jose State, who gets the extra week of preparation. I seriously think that their quarterback is going to be atop the conference again, Shavon Cordero, and I think that is going to be the game that determines whether San Jose State is going to be able to make it to the title game or not.
Wow. I like it. Swag?
Hey, Sprouse. My favorite games. No, I'm sorry. I was looking at my phone, making sure I had everything right. Because I have a pretty nice dark horse statement, this is going to lead into it. But my first game I'm ready for, and I'm glad you said this, Sprouse, because I was actually thinking that Boise State UCF game was last year. What it was 2 years ago. It's how fast time
COVID
flies.
year.
But it was an amazing, amazing game. I'm talking about the rain delay saved UCF. They came back from a 21-point deficit. Do you think Boise State forgot that? I think that game is going to be electric at Boise State. So I'm excited for September 9th, Mountain West versus the Big 12.
Especially, sorry to interrupt, especially if Boise finds a way to beat Washington the week before.
Exactly. And that kind of builds up these games of the week, in my opinion. September 16th, I like Colorado State at Colorado. I am done hearing about Colorado and Deion Sanders. I'm over it. And going back to your point earlier in the show, I was talking major ass about Colorado, like, oh, these players are leaving Colorado and going to Coastal Carolina. I wouldn't be surprised that a lot of these players are leaving, and they're going to be going to Colorado State. Some of these players. I think Colorado State, if they can beat Colorado, let me just read this out for you, because if they start Washington State, who knows? But if they can beat Colorado, I'm sorry. I think they beat Middle Tennessee at Middle Tennessee. Sorry, stop. They beat Utah Tech. And if they can go to Utah State and win, my next big game for the Colorado State Rams, I think October 7th, Boise State comes to Colorado State. And if they can win that game, it's setting them up for one hell of a season, Jeff Murphy. Colorado State, they are my dark horse this year. I'll go into it more later, but I like that offense. I think they're going to evolve. Colorado State, look out.
I like that game at Colorado.
Let me tell you this, too. I'm going to go a little bit Colorado State. They were horrible last year. Horrible. I mean, on offense, they had the yardage, but inside 52% of the time when they were inside the 20, they scored, and only 22% of that was touchdowns. How many points did they leave out there? How many points? So if they can just get it together, get the ball in the end zone, they will put points up there, and I think they can outscore some of these teams.
Well, if they can protect Millen, they'll have a shot.
Yeah. Well, and that's the story all the time of the spread of the air raid.
They gave up 5 sacks. They averaged 5 sacks a game, for God's sakes. So the offensive line, they got to put some sticky glue on their hands or something. I don't know. They got to figure it out. Because, I mean, I saw what San Diego State did at Middle Tennessee. So Mount West has some good defensive rushers. We got to get bigger. We got to get stronger. We got to turn to little stumps. We got to stay there. We got to block. Let's go.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit before the show, Jess. They did not score 20 points one time last season, did Colorado State. For all the talk of the air raid and the offense, you say they had the yards, but that's the question mark with the air raid or with really any of the spread offenses these days. What do you do when you get close to the end zone because there's not enough room to
Yeah.
operate? So they've got to figure
they
that out
can-
this year.
If they can put it together with the athletes they have, I'm telling you, the Colorado. I mean, God, I would if they can win that game, win the state. That's going to be such a confidence booster going for the rest of the season. If they lose that game, well,
Yeah, you just said if if they win that game for like 5 games in a row, right there. If they beat
I'm
Colorado,
confident
then
in
I
all
think
of
if they beat Middle Tennessee, they'll beat Utah Tech. If they can go into Utah State,
no. I think they beat Middle Tennessee State. I think last year Middle Tennessee State embarrassed them up there at home. So they're going to have a little bit of redemption come into Murfreesboro, which we'll probably see. And of course, we'll be cheering on the Blue Raiders, but Colorado State, Matt Mumme, I think that offense is going to be a lot better this year because they're going to finish. I guarantee that's been their whole
no, you're
thing
right about
all
that.
year has been finishing. And we'll see how they finish.
Tip, what do you got for biggest game in the Mountain West?
Week 10, Boise State travels to Fresno State. If Mikey Keene and that Fresno State offense can get rolling, that is a late conference game that could have massive implications on which team goes to the conference championship. A couple other early season games that I'm excited to watch. A couple of group of 5 matchups, non-conference. San Jose State travels to Toledo week 3, and then App State goes to Wyoming. I love both of those matchups, and I'm really excited to watch those 2 games.
That'll be that App State Wyoming game. That's a big, bragging rights, Sun Belt, Mountain West. Who's a better conference?
That's what Jim Ross would call a slobber knocker type of game right there.
Oh my God. Get them off the damn field.
Well, let's get into dark horse. Jesse, I'll start with you just because you already kind of mentioned yours. Colorado State's your dark horse. What do you got?
Colorado State's my dark horse. I'm not going to keep on splurring out words. I think they're a dark horse because they're going to get more than 3 wins. I think they're going to be way more competitive this year. I think they're going to finish. I'm going to see. I don't know if we looked at the over/under yet or not, what they are for the season, but I would take them in the over because I imagine they're going to have about 4.5 wins. I think they're going to get at least 6, 7 wins this year.
I like it. Murph, what about you? Dark horse.
What's crazy is I'm going to say they're my dark horse to win the conference, but they were 7-6 last year, which is like, you would think a dark horse has got to come from like a 2-3 win team, but Mountain West is just so good. But I'm going to go with Wyoming. All right. Wyoming, their hallmarks have always been be able to pound the ball on offense and play really good defense. Well, it's not going to be any different this year. Their defense is led by their defensive end, Devon Harris. This guy was a study. Had 57 tackles last year, 8.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. And there's a couple other guys on that D-line as well. Tip mentioned Easton Gibbs, their linebacker. So it's going to be tough sledding on any offense that comes into Wyoming or faces that defense. The biggest question mark is going to be Andrew Peasley, their quarterback. Can this guy up his completion percentage and not turn the ball over so much? If he can improve and get better, they're going to be able to run the ball. You got NIU transfer Harrison Whaley coming in again behind a great offensive line. So I think the key to Wyoming is their quarterback. Can he be productive and be consistent and protect the ball? If he can do that, it's going to keep Wyoming in a lot more games, and I think that they could have a chance to make it to the Mountain West championship game and possibly win it all.
The good news for them is the bad news is they got to go to Air Force and to Boise State. But the good news is they play Air Force and then they're off and then they go to Boise State. So it's a good news for them.
Defense travels.
Yeah, I mean, I think Wyoming is it's like them and San Diego State to me are just like 8-4, 7-5. Like that's just what they are. Really good defense, just can't seem to score. Always going to upset somebody, but then they lose to somebody they shouldn't lose to, and that's why they go 8-4, 7-5. But anyway, I like the pick. That's a good dark horse pick, Murph. Tip, What do you got for your dark horse in the Mountain West?
My dark horse for this year is San Jose State. Anytime you have a quarterback like Chevin Condero, who's arguably the best quarterback in the Mountain West this season, you have a chance to win the conference championship. They're returning 4 starters on the offensive line. They have a lot of good talent at the running back and wide receiver position, so their offense is going to be good. They have a lot of starters to replace on defense, especially on the D line and the edge rushers. So depth could be an issue on the defensive line, but their linebackers and secondary are very good. So we'll see how they play this season. They have a really tough conference schedule, though. They play Air Force week 4.
Yeah.
Bye week 5. At Boise State week 6. Fresno State week 11. San Diego State week 12. That's top. That's some of the top teams in the Mountain West that you're playing. But this could work to their advantage because to be the best, you have to beat the best. Is that right? So,
According to
and
Ric Flair.
And
That's a good saying, Tip.
3 of those 4 games are at home. So if they can win 3 of those 4 games and everything kind of lines up perfectly, there is a chance because of those head-to-head wins that you got a chance to play for the conference championship.
That was another pay-per-view I just watched. I watched Ric Flair's last match, WrestleMania, with Shawn Michaels. Kick to the face. Sorry. I love you. Pow! Retired.
Old Yeller.
Ric
Oh,
Flair, man. That guy.
Oh, Yeller! Where you going, Yeller?
My dark horse going out to Las Vegas, Nevada, the Rebels of UNLV. In my opinion, I think they made a mistake firing the coach after last year because I thought they had a pretty good year. That being said, I think Barry Odom is a big time hire for them. But you look at their way that their season went last year. After 5 weeks, they were 4-1, with their only loss is to Cal by 6 points. Then their schedule. This was their schedule after week 5. San Jose State, Air Force, Notre Dame, San Diego State, and Fresno State. And they only lost to San Diego State and Fresno State by 1 score. So we talk about the way the schedules pan out for these teams because, you just get a stretch of 5 or 6 games like that are brutal. And if you get those games split up, you're 2-1, and you're 3-2, 4-2. You know what I'm saying? And the way that they're scheduled, they just got beat up right in the middle of their season. But their problem was on the defensive side of the ball, which we know Barry Odom is a defensive coach. They got a couple transfers, SEC guys, a couple from Arkansas, something like that. But I just think UNLV was a game away from making a bowl game last year. I don't see how they don't at least make a bowl game this year. But I look at, Tip was talking about San Jose State schedule. I look at that game, last game of the year, potentially for bowl eligibility at that point for both teams. Big games right there. But I like UNLV. I think we talk about it with, FIU, with Akron. UNLV is one of those places. I mean, them in Nevada. They're the only schools in Nevada. Ain't no Power 5 team in Nevada. I know everybody goes out there to Vegas to go to Bishop Gorman, but if UNLV can keep some local kids, get some transfers, they start winning some games, and you get that stadium to even get half full. I mean, playing in a dome like that, the place could be loud. I like UNLV. I like them as my dark horse. So let's get into it. Championship picks. Who's playing for it? Remember, there's no divisions this year, so your top 2 teams, who plays for it and who wins it. Jeff Murphy, who you got?
I got my first team in the championship game, the San Jose State Spartans.
Wow.
I think they make it behind their star quarterback, Chevin Cordero. I just think he's the best quarterback in the conference as of right now. Over 3,000 yards, leading the Mountain West last year, 23 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That's a great ratio. And then he adds another 9 touchdowns on the ground. He's a dual threat guy. He does not look to run first. He only runs when he has to. And that's That's my biggest thing is when you have a quarterback that tends to be a runner, what is he looking for too? And this guy's looking to push the ball downfield. Justin Lockhart will be his top guy coming back. And if Dominic Mazzotti can stay healthy, their tight end, he's got a potential to be an all conference type of guy. Their running game is very strong. They return 4 offensive linemen, which I think are going to be one of the top offensive line groups in the conference if they can stay healthy. Their schedule in the beginning is tough. They play some tough Power 5 teams in the beginning, but I like the way their schedule kind of finishes up towards the end. They do have that meet in the middle. I think they beat Boise off of that bye week, and then they make it to the conference championship game. I think the other team that's in the conference championship game is Boise State. I think they'll meet San Jose State in that game. I think they're the most complete team. I think Taylon Green is really good. I think he's the real deal. And then on defense, they lost a couple top guys last year, but they'll replace him. Avalos is a great coach. I think those two teams meet. I think your winner of the Mountain West Conference is the San Jose State Spartans.
Talk about a hot take.
Yeah.
Swag.
I'm going to piss Jeff off here because here's the deal. I had Air Force going to the championship game. However, I found out on this podcast that the quarterback's not going to be that good this year. So Matt Sprouse undersold Air Force, and I'm off the bandwagon. I'm getting off. I'm kicking them away. And you know what I do like? I like San Jose State. I like that schedule. I like their offensive line. I think it's going to be the battle of the offensive lines. I think Boise State, San Jose State's in the championship game, but I like Boise State to take it all this year. Well, I had San Jose State. I was going to use them as a dark horse. I did not. Because I don't think they're a dark horse. I think they're going to be good. Yeah. I think San Jose State's going to be just a good team. Everybody knows they're going to be a good team. Boise State's going to be Boise State. I think there's going to be 2 really good offenses this year. I thought Air Force was going to be it, but Sprouse kind of not a big fan of them this year, so I'm not going to be on the bandwagon.
Wait till I give you my sales pitch right after this. Tip, talk some reason into these two.
For the championship game this year, I have Boise State playing against Air Force. So, like we've talked about on this podcast, these two teams do play each other the final week of the season. Air Force travels to Boise State. I think Boise State could possibly be in a position where they have a 2-game lead in the conference going into that game, to where even if they lose that game, they're still going to host the championship game. So, if that happens, I think you could see Boise State kind of limit the playbook on offense on what they're going to run, and you'll see Air Force just do what they do best and just run the football. And I think Air Force wins that last regular season game at Boise State. And then in the championship game, I think Boise State comes out, they open up the playbook to where they run plays that Air Force did not see that last game of the regular season. I think Boise State is your Mountain West Conference champions.
So we got 2 Boises and a San Jose.
Boise. Potato poppers, baby.
Potato poppers. Boise State is 15.5-point underdogs week 1 at Washington. After they win that game in week 1, and then they host the Knights of UCF, Albertson Field on the blue turf is going to be rocking like it's never been rocking before. They are going to be undefeated, going to play Air Force at home on a Friday night. Air Force now, I don't know if you guys took a peek at that schedule. It ain't Boise State's schedule. Matter of fact, if I were to pick, if only one of the 2 teams were undefeated going into that final week, it would be the Falcons of Air Force, because that schedule is cake. Now, I know typically they'll slip up. They'll probably lose to, Wyoming off a bye week. It will probably be the one. But I'm looking at Boise State, though, on a more serious note, my prediction. They are not. I would never say they would beat Air Force 2 weeks in a row. However, if they are 11-0, and they'll be sitting at they'll be 11-0, and the committee will have them at number 6. in the country right there, just holding them out, holding them out, holding them out. If Air Force is playing the way that they should play, they ain't going to be in the top 10, but they'll be top 25 if they're sitting there with wins. You know, they've already beat Army Navy. They've beat San Diego State. They've beat Wyoming. They're undefeated. You could have these two teams be an undefeated meeting that year as a top 25 matchup, and Boise State ain't going to lose either one of those games because they'll have a legitimate shot at a college football playoff appearance. And damn it, let's just hope they don't see Georgia in the first round. Anybody but Georgia. I got Boise State over Air Force. I do. I wanted to pick Air Force, but let me just. I'm sorry, I'm going all over the place. Let me sell Jesse back on this.
Air Force has to have a quarterback that get to the championship, Sprouse.
Their quarterback is a senior. That guy runs the option like the Rev in Remember the Titans. He does it in his sleep, no problem. Hazik Daniels was just the playmaker. What happens when you have a senior quarterback, he's going to know the offense. He's just not the playmaker that Hazik Daniels was. That's why Hazik Daniels was playing in front of him the whole time. Very, very rare do you get a quarterback to come in at Air Force and play multiple, 3-4 years as a starter. That's all. He just had to sit behind one of the all-times.
He's more like Sunshine.
No, that was Hazik Daniels. More talented. Can't pitch at 3 yards. Throw it a mile. Can't pitch at 3 yards. But, yeah, he's a senior quarterback. The offensive line is you think Boise State's is good. Air Force is just
Air Force is actually ranked the number one.
Yeah, according to the Phil Steeles of the world. Yeah, they got Thor Paglialong leading the way there. And then Tip brought up John Lee Eldridge. Great running back. Their defense is solid. It's going to be two good teams. The history would show Air Force will slip up, and that's what I'm hoping doesn't happen. But I got Boise over Air Force. Anyway, that's all we got. Mountain West Conference. So what did we have there? 3 Boise States and a San Jose State?
That's right. Got to hold it down for the crew.
That's a poor pick, dude.
Hey, best quarterback in the conference.
Boise State
right now, if Colorado State beats Colorado and beats Boise State, they're going to be in the championship game. But that's a lot of ifs.
What do you say, Jesse? If and buts were candy and nuts?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, if you enjoy the show, make sure you go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, subscribe to the channel, give us a 5-star rating and review, leave a comment, tell your family and your friends about us. You can catch last week's show, MAC preview, and then the week before that was Conference USA preview.
Call me biased, Sprouse. I'm getting fired up because now we're getting to the American and Sun Belt, and it's about to get lit.
Yeah, we're going to have, I think the picks are going to be all over the place.
Yeah.
Either that or we're all going to say the same thing, and it's going to be a complete bust. But anyway, yeah. So next week, American Conference preview. The week after that, Sun Belt preview. The week after that, it's week 0. We're playing football. We may be traveling. I don't know. We'll pencil some stuff in. We'll get the calendar out. We may be releasing some sort of a travel schedule in the coming days. I don't know. Follow us on all the social media platforms at Group of 5 Guys. Go to group-of-5guys.com. Get you a t-shirt, get you a sweatshirt, get you a hat, whatever you need. We do have a new website that is loading. It'll still be group-of-5guys.com. It'll be merch and much, much more. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Out of here.